Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to each of you for being here. It's good to see you again. Let me say a special thanks to the men and women of Border Patrol, the men and women of ICE for doing an exceptionally difficult and exceptionally important job at a time that is particularly challenging. And we are grateful for the men and women of law enforcement and the work you do every day to keep us safe. Chief Provost, can you give us the most up-to-date statistics on how many people are crossing the border illegally and what the trend has been that you've been seeing?
Certainly, Senator. Overall, fiscal year to date, 460,294. That's Border Patrol Southwest border apprehensions. Just in the month of April, for Border Patrol, Southwest border, 98,977. And the trend, it is increasing day by day. We had a group just last week of over 50, or a day where we apprehended over 5,200 people. We are seeing groups in this, we've actually apprehended 148 large groups of individuals. Compare that to 13 last fiscal year and 2 the fiscal year before that. And when I say a large group, that's 100 or more people in one group, 148 of those groups. As you know well, the demographic is changing as well. We have apprehended over 165,000 individuals from Guatemala, 133,000 from Honduras, 42,000 from El Salvador. Currently, 80% of our apprehensions are other than Mexican nationals, which is a huge demographic shift from where we were just a few years ago. 74% are from the Northern Triangle. And in FY18, we apprehended individuals from over 140 different countries. And this fiscal year to date, we've already apprehended individuals from 127 different countries.
In your judgment, to what extent does catch and release contribute to this massive increase in illegal crossings?
It is a huge pull factor. In my opening statement, I said my biggest concern is that we will have to start releasing single adults if ICE cannot get enough bed space. What we have seen with family units, since we have had to release all family units, we have seen the numbers grow exponentially. I am highly concerned about what's happening with single adults. Those numbers are increasing dramatically. Well, over 167,000 single adults. Everybody's focused on the humanitarian crisis. We have a crisis here as well. Those individuals we have to maintain the ability to detain those individuals through their immigration hearings. And we need a way to safely and securely detain families together through the process as well.
In March, Commissioner McAleenan testified before this committee that Border Patrol had identified over 1,700 cases where children crossed the border with adults claiming to be a family unit, only for the Border Patrol to discover that the child and the adult were not related. Can you provide any update on those numbers?
Our fraud numbers are over 3,500 now, year to date, fiscal year to date. That includes individuals who are not related whatsoever. It also may include individuals who claim to be juveniles, but then we determine that they are actually adults themselves, as well as some that may have...
You have the breakdown of how many are fraudulent family units? And if not, if you could get the...
3,500, over 3,500 so far.
So I've heard reports that the cartels are now engaged in the practice of renting children. To what extent has Border Patrol seen that occurring, and is it increasing?
We have seen cases happen. HSI is focused on this as well now and have task forces that are working with us. Just last week, actually an Office of Field Operations officer who was assisting Border Patrol agents identified a case just like that and worked hand in hand with HSI on that investigation where the child admitted to being basically sold by his mother.
Any other witnesses care to elaborate on
Yes,
this
Senator, if I
horrific
may.
practice?
My colleagues in HSI, to reiterate what the chief was talking about, as far as they are moving some of their resources to additional resources to the border, that being victims awareness specialists, special agents, and I think it was around April 15th up through May 3rd. In their conducting their interviews of families, they identified roughly 3 out of every 10 families to not be families. In other words, fraud being conducted. Also,
And let me ask you briefly, just because time is expiring, would you agree that congressional loopholes that make essentially a child a get-out-of-jail-free card
no question.
incentivize cartels abusing children and putting them in these circumstances?
Absolutely. It's alarming what we are, as we are turning resources to this problem, because first and foremost, the welfare of the children is the most important to all of us for our components. And to the chief's words, I'm really concerned once we start digging into this as to the level of exploitation, these children being recycled, fraudulent documents. Another problem, if I may, adults posing as children. We've had cases where individuals are saying they're 17, 16, we're putting them in HHS care, only to find out after further investigation they're as old as in their late 20s. I mean, the fraud, the exploitation is rampant, and it's not stopping.
Please keep this committee advised as those data, that evidence is developed, because I think this is an issue of particular concern to this committee.
Thank you.